For what it's worth, I'm long past the point that I would have recommended this for children anyway. I've ordered up some 1mm HDPE to make this secret design work. It's not a secret. It's not a secret at all, but I've shown a number of people. But no, I've done the maths, and without the hammer, it's currently coming out around 170 grams. And I didn't realise how heavy polycarbonate is until I cut the same piece from 1.5mm polycarb and 3mm HDPE and found the HDPE barely weighed any more.
Okay, yeah, you need thin HDPE.
Which is why I'm getting 1mm HDPE.
I'm really excited to see this secret design, man.
It's...
Genuinely really excited.
On the way home from work tonight, I specifically stopped off to buy paint.
Excellent.
I've ordered HDPE in white just so I don't have to do a primer coat because that might put it over the weight limit.
Oh man, I'm excited to see that. You've done a fantastic job of building robots.
I'm having so much fun with it right now. I think I'm kind of over the hump of not knowing if I can do it.
Yeah, no, you're on a roll, man. It's really good. I'm always very excited to see what you've been up to.
Took Phil into work today. Gave the kids a bit of a driving session. It was quite funny. The older ones found it much harder than the younger ones because the younger ones had the barefaced confidence to just slam the stick forwards. Which meant they could go in straight lines. They couldn't turn, but they could go in straight lines. Whereas everyone else is trying to be super careful and eke it forwards and just spinning because of it, because my transmitter setup isn't particularly friendly, let's say.
Does your mixing leave stuff to be desired?
I just haven't done anything with any of the rates, and I really should.
Yeah, I suppose there's all the trim and stuff as well. All this advanced stuff that we've never done.
The trim on it is beautiful. It's more the fact that there's this really random point. So normally, if you sort of go at a decent lick forwards, you can have quite nice control of kind of driving an arc.
Yeah. But
there's a point somewhere on there where you suddenly go from driving a nice arc, a really wide arc, to spinning on the spot. And it's just instant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's something that I really should do something about. But I'm not going to, because I'm used to driving it this way now.
Nice.
And I've won fights driving it this way, and I don't want to risk that.
All right. Oh, can't let a single episode go by without rubbing my face in it, can you?
I mean, I don't mean to. It's just such an important fact that it comes up, you know? I don't even have to crowbar it in. It just happens organically.
Oh, dear. Right, we should start, I suppose, shouldn't we?
We should. And in principle, we've got to the easy bit now. But I don't know. I've been talking through these fixtures with a few other podcast peeps, and they're trying to tell me that they're all pretty cut and dried. And I feel like we're going to make them the opposite of cut and dried. These are going to be whole and moist. Which is definitely not a sentence I regret.
Oh, dearie me. We could try and do a round where we try and make it all cut and dry. You know, just go with our first instincts and roll as quickly as possible.
Let me have a little look through. I don't see one. I really don't see one. Not this time, anyway.
Really?
Or are you thinking the first one is?
I don't think. No, I think the first one. I think there's a discussion to be had. Second one, I don't know. I feel like that could be quite. I could make an argument to do that one quickly. Okay,
well, we'll see when we get there. But first, we should start at the beginning with Tauron versus Cobalt. And this will be the first point at which I stress pre-2019.
God, this Cobalt thing. It's going to confuse me.
I mean, the good news is I've got a nice big picture of the horizontal spinner one for you, which is essentially a different robot. So I'd say it's easier to not get confused between these than a lot of others.
Yeah, I think we'll be fine. We'll be fine. As long as I see the picture, we'll be all right.
Now, Tauron came up quite recently. We discussed it. It might even have been the last episode, actually, or maybe the one before. We decided to go with the Series 10 version, the slightly less boaty one. Cobalt came up just forever ago, as in excess of a year ago. And I'm wondering, particularly having had the 2019 version, what your memories of this robot are.
My memory is that this is a less good carbide.
Yeah, pretty much.
That didn't work as well as it should. Did this one break down?
I don't remember it breaking down.
Or was it just not No, maybe the weapon just wasn't as good. I don't know. I always like the single tooth asymmetric thing is cool looking, but I don't get it.
It's a very aggressive asymmetric design as well, where you're honestly just sad that the counterweight side isn't the side that hits things.
Yeah, the thing is about this, right, is you look at this and you go, that how much of the fact that this is asymmetric is to make it legally distinct from Carbide?
Cobalt predates Carbide, doesn't it?
Or, well, the other way around then. Like, I don't know, it's just sort of like I don't know, these robots are so similar and you sort of look at them and go, how are these different just to get them on different programs? Are they the same robot? I don't know.
I feel like if you're going onto BattleBots with a horizontal spinner and you're choosing to go asymmetric to look different to another robot, it would be Tombstone that you're trying not to look like, which is equally valid.
Yeah.
I wonder if the fight you're thinking of in terms of it not really working is the Bombshell fight where it got its wheels kind of systematically eaten away.
Oh, just when Bombshell was good and had the variable height horizontal.
And they came out initially trying to take the chain off the weapon. Cobalt came in reverse instead, so they just went zip up a bit.
Yeah, I remember this. That was bad tactics is what that was.
I mean, it was very good tactics from Bombshell, to be fair.
Oh yeah, Bombshell, fantastic. Cobalt, less good.
Despite that, I still don't think this is a particularly close fight. Tauron scraped its way here anyway against Danton. I always mock the fact that people say that wrong, and here I am. I blame it on my
Here you are.
Lucy-ish voice. Beat Danto Micaiah. Cobalt, meanwhile, was tested by Counter-Revolution and Sweeney Todd. It's not like Tauron can't do it any damage. And Cobalt is an older machine. So I don't know if maybe I'm being harsh on Tauron by thinking it's so easily Cobalt's fight.
See, the thing is, I want it to be Tauron's fight, right? But I feel like that this Tauron, as opposed to the Monsoon Tauron, is a bit more fragile. I don't know. Like I feel like Cobalt's a hardier robot.
It's the boxiness of Tauron that makes it hard for me to have confidence in it standing up to that kind of weapon.
Yeah. This could be completely wrong. I have recollections of the weapon module in Tauron kind of not falling out, but like being knocked out a few times. Is that right or wrong?
That's very wrong. That's happened to Monsoon. Bear in mind that this version of Tauron in particular didn't really face any major spinners anyway. They faced the kegs, which had spinners, that's for sure. Can't argue with the fact they had them. But they were small and didn't keep working for very long. Other than that, it's faced a flipper that didn't flip and a crusher. I'm genuinely torn between 6 and 1, 5 and 2, and 4 and 3 for Cobalt.
How can you have such a range? So sorry, I missed who you think this is in favour of. Cobalt?
Yeah. Can I just check you agree with that first? Because maybe you're going in a completely different direction to me.
I think I agree, but I don't think it's a 6 and 1. I don't think it's that cut and dry.
Like I say, the fact it's you think you agree rather than you agree already says we're in 4-3 or 5-2 sort of zone here.
I'm trying to be unbiased here. Just trying to like remind myself that Tauron has 2 losses and 0 wins aside from the fantasy win.
What is your bias here? Is it just the fact that we've met Tom a few times and he's a really nice guy? And, you know, almost ritually breaks our robots for us if they're not already broken enough. Which is one of the greatest services that a roboteer can provide.
I like Tauron and I like Monsoon and I like that style of robot. I think it's just an interesting way of doing a vertical spinner. You know, it's different and I like that.
I absolutely agree, and I think this version of Tauron is one of the things that allowed that to be such a great idea, kind of at the expense of its own success. It is a stepping stone to something brilliant that we have now, but wasn't necessarily brilliant in its own right. I think it could have done a lot better in the series it was in, and I think it's a shame it didn't. The Androme fight is a really good fight, which both of them contribute a lot to, but I still don't see it winning this fight.
No, I think the bias that I have is obviously we're doing this now, having seen Monsoon. We've seen what this robot, this design can be, and I've got to forget that. I've got to put it out of my mind.
Although we've also seen what Cobalt can be and wasn't necessarily at this point.
Yeah, but like the thing is, Cobalt is so different to Cobalt as compared to like Tauron versus Monsoon. You know, like Tauron and Monsoon are very similar. You can see the lineage. Cobalt and Cobalt, completely different robots.
For the record, I am talking Cobalt and Carbide here.
Ah, I'm confused now. I'm just going to cut that whole segment.
The Cobalt Carbide link, I think some people would argue with and try to go, they're totally different robots.
You've got to do this in the way that I can cut that.
No, I'm making that live.
No.
Give me some numbers, Sam, and I'll try to agree with them.
I don't know anymore. 5 and 2 in favour of Cobalt.
Excellent. So 1 and 2 for Tauron, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for Cobalt.
You happy with that?
The more I say that out loud, the more I think it should be 3, 4, not 2, 5. But that's only based on Tauron being a newer machine, which in this case I don't think is a strong enough argument.
Right, I'm rolling. I'm doing it. I'm rolling.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Correct. Oh, it's a 7.
So nothing that we said mattered anyway.
Nothing matters. The universe is a cruel and uncaring thing.
Excellent. Notes are updated.
Splendid.
It's your turn to intro.
We have up next the 2 robots, Valkyrie and Orte.
I thought there was going to be more to the 2 robots. You know, the 2 robots that shaped my understanding of what it means to be a heavyweight in a difficult modern world or whatever.
Not this time.
The 2 robots that made me the podcaster I am today.
I mean, all these robots have influenced the podcaster I am.
I mean, has Orte really influenced you in any way? Did you remember this existed before we did this?
No, I didn't. 6 and 1.
It really is, yeah. It just is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for Valkyrie, 1 for Orte. Make it happen, Sam.
So 4.
I wrote extensive notes for that.
Which I will point out is 1 face away from the 1.
So glad I spent time making that Orte page.
Would you like to go through your notes quickly?
Not really, no.
Because this is the last time we're going to talk about Orte, I suspect, ever.
Orte is Bigger Brother, but worse.
Okay.
If they'd put the original Bigger Brother in, I would have been 10 times happier than I was with Orte coming in, not really working, and kind of scowling at everyone with its weird face.
Well, moving on.
Next up, we have Concussion versus Lockjaw. Now, when we spoke about Concussion previously, we didn't do any versioning, because we were quite lax on versioning at the time. Are we happy to say that we're combining the 2 versions?
I suppose so. Are we happy to do that? Have we done that in the past? I feel like we've done that with a few robots, haven't we? Let's do it.
We've done that recently.
Are there significant differences between Concussion and Concussion?
One's a mild head injury and the other's a mild head injury.
Okay. Let's combine them then.
Again, so many times we see this. Internally, I'm sure there were big differences, but it's not a big design change. And because each of them did... I suppose it's not quite fair to say equally well, because the first one probably did better. Well, definitely did better. I don't know why I put probably in there at all.
It's fine. Look, Tim's got to stay 2 meters away from you. You can say whatever you like about his robots.
His arms are more than 2 meters long. Yeah, I'm happy to say they are substantially enough the same. With Lockjaw, we did agree we were taking the 2018 version because that gives it the option of the spinner, which, let's face it, is the only option it ever seems to use anyway now.
Yeah.
But we're still saying that the grabber is in play just on a moral ground.
Got a moral obligation to continue to use or have the option of using the weapon from which it derives its name.
The jaw what locks.
Exactly.
Very similar competitive records. So it's all about design versus design and driver versus driver here, I think. Also in the Robot Wars arena, which probably doesn't affect either of them as much as it could.
No.
It gives Lockjaw fewer places to get randomly stuck.
That's true. I got really confused on your notes, you've got beat traction at odds of 5-1. And I sort of read that and didn't really parse fully what it meant other than this robot beat traction. I'm like, how the hell has that ever happened? Like, when have those two robots fought? Obviously, in Retuncti.
I should point out for the benefit of the listener that that is right under the heading Notes from Past Episodes.
Well, just know that I read thoroughly.
Also, flashback to the time when we were using a six-sided die.
Yeah.
The Dark Days, as they're known.
The Dark Days. Pre-Enlightenment. I think this is in Lockjaw's favour. I think that it's better driven.
Ooh.
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 Tell me I'm wrong.
No, it's just the better driven part. I don't know. It's, to be fair, it's really hard to judge driving.
This is true. It is very hard.
I think it's definitely fair to say that Don Hudson is a significantly more experienced roboteer than probably everyone on the Concussion team combined at the point of Series 10. I would expect Lockjaw to be a more controllable machine on the basis of being four-wheel drive.
Mm-hmm.
I think if this becomes a pushing match at any point, it's got a significant advantage because of that and also because of the forks. And let's face it, we're running the spinner here, aren't we?
Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't in this fight. Or indeed any fight, which I guess part of the problem.
But at the same time, I can't rule Concussion out completely.
No.
Or even strongly.
I'm not ruling it out. I'm just saying I think this is in favour of Lockjaw. That's all I'm saying. That's all I've said. Lockjaw
maybe I read something into your tone.
should have the bigger number. I'm not going to be going and claiming this is a 6-1. Or indeed a 1-6. That's too extreme. We need a more careful and considered approach here.
I mean, isn't that what you always get from Retuncti? Well, considered in that there is a lot of time spent considering it.
It's considered, it's well thought out, it's well researched. The people discussing it, they really know what they're talking about. They'd never get cobalt and carbide mixed up. That would be ridiculous. Like, this is high quality programming.
Two experts in their field come together, a meeting of minds, the likes of which has never been seen or heard before.
Exactly. We are experts. I won't specify what in, but we are experts.
So dragging this kicking and screaming back to the fight. I always say those things in a way that makes it sound like they've been edited in to get rid of a load of stuff, and it's actually how things happened.
It also makes you sound like a boring old fart that won't let me go on tangents.
I thought you were going to accuse me of sounding corporate again there.
No, not this time. You haven't used any corporate phrases that I've noticed.
Yet.
Not yet, no.
So Concussion's USP...
Painful to hear.
So what I'm doing in my head right now is I'm trying to give Concussion as much credit as I can to see how close we can make this, which is probably the product of massive bias on my part. So first of all, Robot Wars Arena, therefore House Robots, and I think a general experience of fighting in that environment. Pit, however, is a downside for Concussion, I think, because Lockjaw's got the advantage of ground clearance and drive. Exposed wheels on Lockjaw are a target for Concussion, but how often have we actually seen that be a big issue for Lockjaw? Not often.
No, I mean, I feel like it's lost
Tombstone
tires,
fight
but it's
is
not a big problem when it has.
Yeah, so that's happened in the Tombstone fight in particular is the one I'm thinking of, but that was 2019, so shh.
Doesn't count.
Shh. Once again, I've played myself.
See, because I'm looking at these records, right? And I don't mean to be too dismissive of the robots that Concussion has beaten. But, like, compared to the robots that Lockjaw has beaten, you sort of think, I feel like Lockjaw's a better robot, It's had a harder time, I think, with its wins.
Yeah, it's had much greater opportunities to take down much more proven machines. Looking at it, it's beaten the newer Bombshell twice. One of those was quite a controversial win, as I recall, and the other was after Bombshell had beaten Tombstone and it basically went back to not working again. Kraken was a new machine and a non-meta design. Lucky, I absolutely love, but it is not a machine that wins very often.
You know what Lucky needs?
Some luck.
It needs faster actuation on its weapon.
What a novel idea.
possibly some kind of repeat action on it.
Yeah, that's how I'm going to dismiss some of Lockjaw's wins, just to even the odds a bit.
Yeah, but the thing is, I can dismiss some of the concussions by just saying the name of the robot, like MR speed squared, for example.
Yeah, and the heavy metal one wasn't particularly good. The Thor fight, well, one of the Thor fights that it won was a bit spawny in terms of all the shenanigans around the pit. There are lots of ways you could try and knock each of them down a peg or two. Lockjaw, however, I think you can knock up a few pegs by... I think particularly the Son of Waiachi win, the judge's decision was fantastic. And even some of the defeats it's had... Actually, I suppose the Bronco one was weird because they both weren't working. It's not lost any fights that you would consider a little bit embarrassing. Whereas Concussion's struggle against Nuts 2, again, while I love Nuts 2, not the strongest of losses.
I think the most important factor that we've both overlooked so far is that Lockjaw beat Traction. So therefore, it's got to be the favourite for this fight.
6-1 it is. I feel like, having tried to talk Concussion up and kind of struggled, I think it's got to be 2-5.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. We agree.
The exposed wheels do call to me in a way, but...
You gotta try and ignore the exposed wheels, They don't... It's not as big a factor as people are led to believe.
I came in expecting to make this a 3-4, and here I am saying 2-5.
Here you are. Are you ready?
Yep, 1 and 2 for Concussion, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for Lockjaw.
It's a 7.
Another convincing win there.
Congratulations.
Excellent. We're flying through these.
We are flying through these.
And when I said that I couldn't see a particularly clear-cut one, I clearly wasn't looking hard enough.
We have Huge and the Kegs.
How on earth did the Kegs get here? Oh yes, they beat Terror Turtle.
5-1.
A battle of teammates.
Oh dear. The Kegs.
Now,
I feel like since we last discussed these robots, I feel like in the past I've probably been quite dismissive of the Kegs. But now that I've got a bit more experience, I'm noticing some just amusing things that I quite like. On one of the Kegs, on the keg with the 4 sets of, like, the 4 wheels rather than 2 big ones, I feel like the wheels on the top are driven by being pushed against the wheels on the bottom, which is brilliant.
Yep, it means no inverted driving. As in, when you're upside down, everything on the transmitter will still make sense.
It still makes sense. That's just like little details like that. I hadn't spotted that before. Genius. Still don't think they're going to win this fight.
The Kegs are just fun machines.
They are.
And again, the whole sort of ethos of the team of making things out of recycled parts has always been a nice little kind of side quest to Robot Wars. Admittedly, you have to say Shark Opera has probably done it better. But they've done it consistently. Actually, so's Ed Robinson. I like the Kegs. Doesn't mean I'm going to be kind to them here, but I like them. I do think that they could take something from this fight. They could have the honour of being the first robot Huge has beaten via knockout.
Yeah. That's huge. That's amazing that they've not won by knockout.
Going into 2019, all 3 wins of theirs have been judges' decisions. Like, comfortable and convincing ones, but decisions nonetheless. Pure entertainment machine.
Yeah.
I'm not actually now sure that they got a knockout in 2019 either. What fights did they have? Huge was a judge's decision. Whiplash was a judge's decision. Son of Waiachi, they were knocked out. Gigabyte, I'm fairly sure, was a decision. Who else did they even have? I'm a good BattleBots fan.
You are asking the wrong host of Spinnerproof.
Okay, I'll ask the other one. He doesn't know either.
Okay. Shame.
I'm nearly there on the page. I'm doing it on my phone, so it actually happens at a non-glacial speed.
I love that your phone is faster than your laptop.
Is that not true for most people?
To be honest, if you have an iPhone and almost any laptop, it probably is true.
Okay, just checking. They've actually got 2 KOs now. The first was against Jasper. And the second was actually the Hypershock fight, which I forgot was a KO within the last 5 seconds.
Does it count if it's in the last 5 seconds?
Yes.
Does it count if nobody remembers?
Also, yes. So, 6-1, eh?
I think so, yeah. I don't really see a way of the kegs doing anything meaningful to Huge.
I mean, maybe. Actually, no. We'll save it for if it happens.
If it happens, we'll have to
So
work
1, 2, 3,
hard.
4, 5, 6 for Huge, 7 for the kegs. No, I don't like these sounds. I don't like these sounds at all.
It's a 7. Oh no! Oh shit! How are we going to do this?
Just remember, Sam, that this kind of situation is why we did this way. We were encouraging this.
How? Oh, how did this happen?
We don't even have the Robot Wars arena to save us here. So the only thing I can think of is the fact that the kegs are a multibot. And they could, in principle, in one swift scissor motion, come in and take both wheels of Huge at once. And I wonder if having a robot either side would kind of negate that ability that Huge has to just kind of flex and bounce away. Also worth remembering, this is 2018 Huge, which is falling in half Huge. So maybe the raw, vicious power of one of those spinners...
Torn in half is what I recall happening.
The first time, but the second time it seemed like it had really been it was like perforated edges the second time.
Well, yeah, but like, are we considering this fight as in like the second time for Huge? Is this like post being torn in half Huge?
I guess it has to be, yeah, because it's got the tearing in half on its record.
Oh my!
Horizontal
goodness me.
spinners are supposedly the thing that tended to make that happen. That was true in the lighter weight classes as well.
Yeah, maybe
Raw vicious power of the kegs could have been enough.
Maybe by, I don't know, luck, judgment, or just a pure stroke of genius, the kegs' weapons spin in opposite directions, and so they hit the wheels and kind of splay them out on Huge.
I mean,
you know, simultaneously. You know, the left wheel gets pulled to the left, the right wheel gets pulled to the right. Huge, split in twain.
Huge, kind of like it's on a rack.
Yeah.
I feel like it wouldn't be hard to reverse the direction of those weapons because they're completely symmetrical blades.
Yeah.
So that happened.
That's honestly the best I can think of for how on earth this could happen. Is the kegs have an amazingly lucky hit with weapons that are going in opposite directions.
See, I can think of lots of ways it could happen. I just don't believe that any of them realistically would.
No, this is the thing. Oh, well. Right then. Well,
So we've come up with 5 or 6 different scenarios for the kegs beating Huge, and I still stand by the 6 and 1.
yeah,
Well, I mean, we wanted a plucky underdog.
we've got one.
The
We've got
kegs
2.
would be among the pluckiest and underest.
Yeah.
So with that, why couldn't it have been Jellyfish? That's all I'm saying. Damn, that'd be a good matchup, actually. Huge versus Jellyfish.
See, that
Make it happen.
That would be more interesting.
Wait, you mean Huge versus the kegs isn't enough of a spectacle for you?
Well, would it be more interesting? No, it wouldn't. It'd be less interesting, wouldn't it? Because I'm not. Can this version of Huge even hit Jellyfish?
I believe it can, but I'd certainly be going in wondering, and that would make it exciting for me.
Because my suspicion is that it can't hit Jellyfish, which makes the fight immensely boring.
I mean, Jellyfish isn't as low as we all probably think.
No.
I feel like Huge could get quite low to the ground with the bar. Otherwise, that's a bit of a design flaw, frankly. And Huge, as we know, is perfectly engineered.
Indeed. Right, we should actually move on. We should stick to. I'm going to be the old fart this time. Doesn't let you go on tangents because I don't want to talk about Jellyfish. So move us on.
I'm worried we're going too quickly. We've got to slow down.
No, it's fine. We have a short episode. It's fine.
Next up, we have Escape Velocity versus the Ringmaster. Another 2 robots we haven't spoken about for a long time. I wonder how much you remember of Escape Velocity.
This is the SpaceX one, isn't it?
It is,
Haha, nailed it.
with its NASA theme.
This is the one where they probably shouldn't have put as much weight as they did into the silly little spinner thing that they made. And
I don't remember the flipper being this phallic.
What kind of fallacies are you looking at?
I mean, only the best, obviously. The best and brightest fallacies.
Phalli.
I mean, fallacies just sounds funnier, doesn't it?
Oh no.
Phallodopodes.
Well,
So this was another robot that defied the odds early on, beating Stinger, of all things. I can't quite remember how we justified that one. Actually, the Ringmaster also did the same.
Oh,
It beat
blimey.
terahertz. I've just seen a note that I made and forgot. So I'm going to have to interrogate you over this now.
Okay, I'm ready.
According to past Ryan, who made this particular set of notes a while ago, during the episode where we discussed the Ringmaster, you claimed that the wait for a good hit meme would never get old for you. Over a year on, has it got old?
Well, I feel like I've made reference to this quite recently. So I'm going to go with no, it hasn't got old for me.
Fair, that's good to know.
I think I do, still do occasionally sprinkle it in there. Sprinkle in waiting for good hits, you know. I've got to wait for the right moment for it to hit you with that meme. But you know, they do come up occasionally.
Excellent. Tangent averted.
Got to wait for a good tangent.
How do you feel about this fight, Sam?
I mean, I don't rate either of them particularly.
We should probably talk about Escape Velocity's setup, because they can have either the mini-bots or additional ablative armour, the honeycomb aluminium,
Oh yeah.
or honeycomb aluminum, as I'm sure they would have called it.
Well, you know, Americans say things all kinds of weird ways, and honeycomb aluminum is not the weirdest of them.
I'm guessing for a spinner, they've got to go with the extra armour, especially considering their shell spinner isn't going to do very much.
See,
I called it a shell spinner. That makes me sad, but it's because it looks so much like a bloody turtle.
So, see, I was thinking the other way, right? I was thinking they put in the little spinner to take some sacrificial hits from the Ringmaster, because I feel like ring spinners break quite easily. They're very sensitive, so I wonder if they can just ram the little one in there to take a few hits and hopefully break the Ringmaster.
But can't ablative armour do the same thing?
But I don't know if ablative armour comes off too easily. You know, is that a meaty enough hit to sort of really put Ringmaster off balance?
It's a very good question. I mean, the one thing that's certain for me is they're not getting the weapon in play unless the Ringmaster is stopped. And if they do, it's not going to change anything anyway. So this really does come down to their ability to stop the weapon entirely and then dominate on, I guess it would be aggression, wouldn't it? I wouldn't mind saying they'd go for the slightly higher risk strategy of putting the mini-bot in.
I don't know. It's tricky.
Because I guess there's a line of strategic thinking where you go, trying to take a couple of hits with the mini-bot is less of a risk to the main bot.
Yeah. I think the thing that I'm sort of wrestling with as well is like, if we'd gone to the effort of making honeycomb aluminium ablative armor, and then we were faced with a spinner, I feel like you'd use the honeycomb ablative armor because you've gone to the effort of making it for this exact purpose.
So you're arguing with yourself. Got it?
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking it through. You know, this is the way my brain works, considering it from multiple angles, multiple options here.
I mean, we had a setup that we made and never used. Although I suppose we didn't really have a fight. Actually, we did have a fight that was kind of appropriate for it.
What setup was this?
Darth Wall.
We never finished
Which was,
Darth
in
Wall.
principle, it was pretty much done.
It was missing holes and mounting hardware.
We had like a day to fit it if we wanted to. I mean, you seem to be in favour of both, so I'm going to let you decide.
Oh, don't do that. I've given you two options. I've narrowed it down.
I'm also happy with either.
Damn it. I mean, if it were me, I'd put the mini one in because I think that would be funnier, but I don't feel like that is an appropriate reason to pick the mini one.
It's hard to say if we're meant to be simulating what they would do or doing what we think is best.
I think that they would use the ablative armor. I think that's like, if like I said, if you've gone to the effort of making it, like it's built for that purpose, you're fighting a spinner, you'd put it in with the armor.
Honeycomb aluminum it is.
Excellent.
Oh god, where do we go from here? I don't see it working.
What, the Ringmaster?
No, the extra armour.
Or the extra armor?
I can't remember how reliable the Ringmaster was. The Bite Force loss, the weapon got chewed up pretty badly because Bite Force. Even though this is the first iteration of Spinner Bite Force, it still really ate that ring up. The drive and everything else survived. And I can't remember the Ultimo Destructo fight. I feel like Ultimo Destructo probably didn't put up that much resistance. Because this was Ultimo in its kind of half a barrel with a flipper days.
It's the ultimate in destructive machines, that.
I think for a ring spinner, the Ringmaster is pretty reliable for a ring spinner. And with escape velocity not really having a wedge to deflect it, and having a style of ablative armour that's going to be very grabby,
Yeah.
even if they do stop the Ringmaster's weapon, they will have taken a lot of very visible damage doing it, which is still going to make life a bit harder for them with the judges than it otherwise would be.
Yeah, because escape velocity isn't necessarily going to be able to knock Ringmaster out, are they? So I think this ends either with the Ringmaster knocking escape velocity out, or with the judges.
I guess there's a scenario where escape velocity can kind of hang them up on a wall or something, but
Yeah.
that's quite a fringe outcome.
I would be happy with a minor advantage to the Ringmaster.
So you're thinking 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I'll go with that. So 1, 2, 3 for escape velocity, 4, 5, 6, 7 for the Ringmaster.
Okay. It's your favourite, Ryan. It's a decision that mattered. It's a 4.
Ah. In this case, I'm okay with it.
Well,
I feel like
I'm glad.
my newfound style of making the notes immediately kind of kills the post-fight conversation. I don't know what there is to say about that.
No, well, we've discussed it. We've discussed it. The outcome is known. It's in there. It's there for all the world to see, or hear in this case, because we've not written it down anywhere.
I mean, it'll be in show note form as well.
This is true.
I think it's your intro next.
Okay. Up next, we have Death Roll versus Apollo. I could have done a better link. I could have been like from one space-themed robot to another, but I didn't.
What's Death Roll got to do with space?
Ha 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 ha.
Wasn't an Australian kind of relay station used as a critical part of the communication for some of the moon missions?
I don't know.
But you know everything about space.
I do not. The Australian Space Agency is headquartered in Adelaide.
Please tell me they're known as ASA.
I don't think so.
I guess it'd be quite hard to launch rockets from Australia just because of the inclination that you'd end up on.
Yeah, I don't feel like they launch many rockets from there.
Probably too drunk. Ha! Casual racism. It's the basis of all humour.
I sigh at you.
Do you want to sigh at me even more?
Okay.
I listened back to our last discussion of Death Roll,
Oh no.
during which I tried to claim that we could use Great White's performances of King of Bots as evidence of how well Death Roll works.
Who even are you?
The funny thing is
Oh no.
that when it came back for 2019, it was pretty much Great White that turned up as Death Roll. So in a sense, I was vindicated. In a retunity sense, I was wrong.
Oh dear.
Very, very wrong.
Very wrong. Yeah. Right then. I'm going to struggle with this one because my memory of Death Roll has been completely overwritten by modern Death Roll. So
It didn't win any fights, and it didn't really look like winning any fights.
okay. So Death Roll rubbish. Apollo good.
I think we know what the scoring is going to be, but there's something we need to address with Apollo, which is that last time we picked the Series 10 version out, but again, in light of how we've treated robots recently, do we want to combine them instead?
Oh man, you're gonna make us to change. Like the decision has been made. It's in there. It's locked in stone.
I'm happy to stick with it.
This is like serialization. Once you've written it to disk, that's it.
It's just tricky because obviously the first version, as it were, not that I think if you look at any of them as different versions necessarily, was a champion.
I think the biggest upgrade I'm aware of in there was when they overhauled the drive system and made it a lot beefier.
Yeah. That was the big thing for Series 10, and that was also why we chose the Series 10 version, so I applaud your consistency.
I'm happy to combine them.
Excellent, but I think we're unavoidably going to be thinking about its past performances and its older versions as well as we go.
Yeah.
In terms of it having one Series 8, that's kind of something you can't ignore with Apollo.
I can and I won't have to because we're combining them.
And of course, we'll also be thinking about the latest version of Vulcan.
Is that so?
6 and 1? No, sorry, 1 and 6.
Yeah, I suppose so. Sorry, Death Roll.
Were you going to try and make a case for Death Roll?
Well, yeah, but then I remembered that it's not modern Death Roll, so I got nothing.
If it was modern Death Roll, what would you be saying?
Well, I feel like I wouldn't go quite as far as 1 and 6. Modern Death Roll did quite well, didn't it? Like, it went quite a while without being
Very
beaten.
well.
Yeah, right.
Semi-final.
Yeah. You're making me doubt
Unbeaten
myself.
in the pre-season.
You're making me doubt myself by questioning what I'd be saying. Like, if it was Modern Death Roll, I feel like we were on the same page. It would be much more in favour of Death Roll.
I don't think Modern Death Roll would deal well with a flipper like Apollo. It's a kind of robot it was never tested against. We just don't know.
Yeah, well, thankfully, we don't have to make that decision now. It's a problem for the next series of Retuncti.
I mean, the next series of Retuncti is clearly the Bugglebots edition.
Oh, no.
We'll take all the robots from the 2 series plus any specials to make up the numbers if we have to.
Let's not promise anything. Right, 1 and 6. I'm rolling. Oh, that wasn't the roll. That was me dropping the dice. I'm rolling.
Is that not what rolling is?
No, but it was not intentional. You know, this has got to be an intentional roll.
You got to really mean it. 1 for Death Roll, everything else for Apollo.
It's a 4.
Excellent. I don't think we really need to work out how that one happened, do we?
Well done, Apollo. Congratulations to all.
Perfection. Do you need a minute to look at the next one, or are you okay?
I love Red Devil so much.
Well, you're about to be disappointed, aren't you?
I know, but like, it's such a cool looking robot. Like, arguably the coolest robot almost the coolest looking robot in Robot Combat. I think it's the coolest looking one. Is it even the coolest one in BattleBots even? Got Warhead.
I mean, pre-2019 it could be, because it hasn't got Quantum to deal with.
Oh, Quantum. So many good looking robots. Right, I'll let you introduce it and then we can talk about it.
I think it's quite clear one of the robots we're talking about, Red Devil versus Ironside 3.
Yeah.
You'll be pleased to know that in the last time we spoke about it, I referred to Red Devil as being slightly below average.
Slightly below average? Slightly below average. What are you're changing numbers. That said 9 wins earlier.
Yeah, and that was wrong, and that's why I accidentally started saying something different, because I noticed halfway through it. I was like, I'll change that before Sam looks.
I saw it.
So the slightly below average Red Devil, I still think this. It was really impressive with the way it beat Witch Doctor, and it pretty much achieved nothing since.
It looks so cool. Like,
oh, it is. I think it's one of those things that's as close as any competitor to the sort of robot a child would draw when they first heard about the idea of BattleBots.
Yeah. I think I've probably told this story before, but I feel like Red Devil was the robot that sold me on BattleBots. It was the one that I saw and go, okay, BattleBots is different. Like, these people are building completely different robots to anything I've seen on Robot Wars. It's just, amazing. Love it.
I don't remember that story. It doesn't mean you haven't told it. I don't remember that story, I like it.
There you go.
Still slightly below average, though, isn't it? Which brings us on to a robot that is very successful, but I've always struggled to rate.
I want to challenge you on that. Slightly below average.
Are you going to ask me what is the average robot?
What is the average win-loss ratio for a robot? Like, is a 50% ratio above or below the average?
I mean, it's tricky.
Because I would not be surprised.
Because if it were all one-to-ones, then everything should even out so that, half of robots win their fight. Therefore, you would kind of feel that an even ratio should make sense. Once you start throwing 3-ways in...
Well, no, because I think, I don't think... probability, mate, is... I can't grasp probability, I guess. But, like, I wouldn't say that I would expect Tombstone to win half its fights. I would expect it to win a lot more than half its fights. And I would also expect that, I think the point you were making is maybe half of all robots should win most of their fights or something. Is that what you were trying to say? Because I don't agree with that either.
No, I just feel that, in every fight there is one winner, one loser. That was the way I was thinking of it. So every fight that ever happens puts a 1 on a win column and a 1 on a loss column somewhere.
Yeah, but I
realise that it also depends on what kind of average we're talking about as well, realistically.
Well, I think that for most robots... I think that they have more losses than they do wins.
That makes sense. If you're having knockout tournaments, then yes, I think Fight Night changes the picture a lot. If we say that every robot is getting 4 fights every season minimum, then that's very different to the first couple of seasons where a lot of robots came, had 1 fight, lost it, and that's it. And they have no way to turn that negative record into an even or a positive.
I suppose.
It's a really interesting question that I want to try and answer properly, but that will involve some math.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that it is hard for robots that have only had like one or two fights. But, we're looking at a robot here that's had more than that. And, if you sort of go, right, for all the robots that have had, I don't know, 4 or more fights and stuff, like, if you take that range of robots, I don't know, I feel like the 50% ratio is above average. That's my argument. I think that's good. Maybe not, like, significantly above the average, but I think it is above average.
I completely agree the record might be above average. It doesn't mean the robot is.
The record is all that matters, man. Everything else falls away. The only thing that's important is the competitive record of the robot.
Well, we're screwed then, aren't we? But no, I mean, beating Rex isn't a huge deal. The Witch Doctor fight was obviously impressive, but it's a one-off. The Brutus win, I seem to remember Brutus just broke down. The Sub-Zero win was by the judges and was Sub-Zero, whose main strength was being a tank, which doesn't really help you against a non-spinner. The robots it's lost to are all pretty good, which makes it kind of hard to judge. Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's just not a robot that I would back to win a majority of its fights, which is more to do with the sort of choice of design in terms of the meta. They have built something that is not necessarily going to be successful, and the reward they get for that is having something really cool and unique, which is a trade-off that I am obviously more than happy with.
Can we at least agree that Red Devil is a truly excellent execution of that idea?
Oh, absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. And obviously, all the robots we see at BattleBots have had a lot of time, care, and attention go into them, but I think Red Devil is a level above a lot of others.
You might even say that it's slightly above average.
In that specific regard.
Victory is mine. Ironside 3.
You see, I don't think this is that clear. Ironside 3, I've always had trouble rating Ironside 3 as highly as I probably should. Its record is very impressive, not just because it has a draw on it, which shouldn't be able to happen. It has been pretty dominant. We, by the way, went with the Series 9 version as basically the most recent.
Oh, no.
Again, I feel like we could combine it with the one from the series before.
Here we go.
Not sure it changes a great deal. It was the same robot, but without the little fins on the front, design-wise.
Okay, well, I suppose we should combine them then, shouldn't we?
I was saying this isn't that clear-cut. It probably isn't. It's just that I don't want it to be. Red Devil does have the kind of plough attachment, which will allow it to take a couple of hits. But at some point, Ironside is getting round to a side or the back, taking a track, or worse, like a whole track pod. And at that point, it's kind of over, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that as much as I want Red Devil to win this is probably a similar argument to what we had the first time with Red Devil. Oh, no. He was fighting Tantrum, so that changes things, I suppose. Anyway.
Yeah, the tricky thing last time was working out which one to discount.
Yeah.
Tantrum or Battle Royale with Cheeks.
As much as I like Red Devil, I do, yeah, I agree that I think it is inevitable in this fight that Ironside is going to remove enough drive to put it firmly, on Ironside's favour with the judges, if nothing else.
Even being in the battle box doesn't really make a difference to that. Ironside doesn't have any sort of history of unreliability that makes me think we can kind of wangle something that way. I think it's just got to be the 1 and 6 that it seems, hasn't it?
I'm not convinced I want to go as far as 1 and 6. That seems a bit extreme. Yeah, that seems a bit one-sided to me. I want to give Red Devil 2.
I want to agree with you, but I honestly think that can only be the product of bias on your part. I don't understand how you're justifying that, but now is your chance to tell me.
It's got the saw, and it could cut Ironside in half. No, but it could cut into Ironside maybe and do something. Maybe it cuts the self-writer thing off and then flips Ironside. There we go. Justified.
So that's a 1.1 to 5.9. As far as I recall, Ironside, which is quite a lot more compact than it really looks, was an all Hardox construction, wasn't it? I could be wrong. Maybe I should check. Maybe I should leave you with an awkward silence while I check.
I mean, you can check if you want, but I think that if Red Devil does win this against the odds, then we've already decided how it wins. Or I have, anyway.
I see nothing wrong with your explanation.
Excellent. Right, should we roll then? 1 and 6.
Oh, I've just accidentally looked on the Oh no, I was just I accidentally looked on the Robot Wars website, thinking that would give me information. It just lists its material as 5mm wear-resistant steel, which I'm sure means that every single part was made of that.
The entire thing.
Tyres, batteries, everything.
Yeah.
Are we going 1 and 6?
Well, I suppose so. I feel like I can't convince you of anything else.
I'm rooting for the 1 just as much as you are, for what it's worth.
I know better than to try and argue with you on these things.
Argue with me. Do it. Hang on. How many more fights to go? 1 more fight. Argue with me.
Well, I just tried, and you shot me down with your 1.1 to 5.9 thing.
That's because it was a dreadful argument. If you give me a good one, I might change my mind.
What would be a good argument?
Well, that's your job to work out, isn't it?
Damn it. I was really hoping I could get you to argue with yourself there.
Okay, a good argument would be a way that you believe Red Devil can reasonably reliably stop the weapon and therefore take the fight via the judges.
It's a 1!
No.
It genuinely is.
I mean, I'm not mad, but I am suspicious.
I think the entire audience is going to be suspicious of that. But hand on heart, I promise you, that's a 1. I was hoping that I'd roll it and it would be something else and we could just move on, but it's a 1.
What's making me suspicious is the fact that you did it without warning me you were going to do it, which makes me think that if it hadn't been a 1, you might have just not mentioned it.
Well, so what I was going for is I was gonna try and be funny, right? Do a little gag where rather than responding to your argument there, I was just gonna give up and just roll it and announce the result, and then we'd go on. That's what I was hoping for. Instead, we got a 1.
We got something far better. Right, it's your job justifying it then, as far as I'm concerned.
It's a 1 that no one's going to believe. Well, I'm going to stick with my original argument. Red Devil gets around the back somehow, cuts off that self-righting thing somehow, and then does a suplex thing and flips Ironside. Game over.
I'm just laughing at I'm just laughing at the joke in my own head of it's 1 believable. And I've now got that going through my head as the song, and I like it. And I don't want it to leave.
1 believable.
Oh dear. I'm so glad we're on the last one in so many ways. Mostly just my need for the toilet, but also the general existential dread of what might happen if we have 3 upsets in an episode.
I can't believe it. That's mad.
I'm happy.
Right then, shall we move on?
Yep, you can intro this one.
We have the Kraken versus Big Nipper.
Kraken, I feel like we discussed fairly recent. No, it wouldn't have been fairly recent. It'd been a long time ago because it was a 1v1. It beat the powerhouse that is Draven.
Have you got a render of Kraken rather than an actual picture of Kraken?
I don't know. That is from the BattleBots website. I think that might be a picture.
I mean, that looks like a render to me.
I mean, maybe they just made it that well.
I don't think it's possible to make it that well.
Maybe they just rendered it that well. I don't know. I mean, you can check the BattleBots website for yourself. I think that might be real. It's a very good-looking robot.
I'm going to battlebots.com and I'm going to have a look.
While you're doing that, I feel like we may have been a little generous in the 5-1 odds that we gave it to beat Draven, but at the same time, it is Draven.
That's probably what happened last time. Right then. Now to find Kraken.
Remember, it'll be the 2018 Kraken.
Oh, I'm on the 2018 thing. View. God, they need to speed up this website. To be fair, it's a pretty damn clean robot. That's amazing.
It really is beautifully made. It's also interesting seeing this sort of compared to the new one, because the new one looks great in its own right, but this really doesn't look too shabby either.
I'm trying to I want to zoom in on the picture.
Well, I managed to zoom in on it, so it can't be that hard.
What did you do to zoom in on it?
Well, I was on my phone for starters.
Oh, well, there you go. Zoom. 200%. Can zoom in. Okay, I can see weld marks, which seems like that would be an ambitious thing to put in a render. So, not ambitious, an unnecessary thing to put in a render. So I will grant that this is a photo, but they have done an amazing job of making a very clean robot with all those curves. I'm impressed.
Which is why it's a shame what's about to happen to it, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we last discussed Big Nipper, which wasn't very long ago, we decided to combine the versions.
Of course.
and we can decide between the grabby lifty jaws or the spinny hurty disc.
I think that just to counter all the combining we've done, we should split this one up now.
No. Because that sounds like work and I need a poo. I'm highly motivated to get this one done quickly.
It's like the most perfect no.
It was a motivated no.
Oh, dear. I mean, I think we've got to put the spinner on Big Nipper, right?
Yeah. And I think that creates a number of problems for Kraken.
Yeah.
We could discuss it, or we could just accept this is a 1 and 6 as well.
I mean, Kraken lost to Sharkoprian.
Yeah, that was admittedly with Deviled Egg in there as well. I think there might have been a slight element of getting ganged up on. It was also their first ever fight, so I can kind of understand them struggling that way. It had a good performance against Lockjaw. The win against Red Devil it really deserved, but I just don't see it getting past that disc in any meaningful way. And even if it does, to start getting a grab, the fact that Big Nipper can actuate the disc and lift it means it's probably not only going to get its way out of that grab, but do some damage doing it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's a shame for Kraken.
I think Kraken's quite a sort of robust robot, though. Like, I feel like it can take a hit, or is that a more modern one? I don't know anymore.
I mean, I think it's true of both. The front end in particular doesn't really have anything in it. This version of Kraken, as I recall, had some issues with getting stuck, unable to self-right, which would also be an issue up against Avert.
This is true. I feel bad doing this as a 1 and 6 in a way that I can't fully articulate. I feel like I've been very harsh to Kraken in the past, and it was probably in the 2019 series that it proved itself, and I feel like I've come around to it. But we can't consider the 2019 series. So should I still be harsh? Should I be old Sam here?
I don't think it's harsh to say that this non-meta design is going to really struggle in this particular matchup. I think that is just a fact of building a Crusher or a Control Bot.
Okay.
And I think that our system acknowledges the chance it has enough by giving it the 1 in 7 chance.
Okay. 1 and 6 then.
So 1 for Kraken, everything else a Big Nipper.
What do you reckon this is going to be? What's your prediction?
I hope it's not a 1 in a way, just because we've had so many already. It's a 2, isn't it?
It's a 2.
So that is the first batch of these ones completed. That was, 8 of the 32?
Not bad, not bad.
Not bad at all.
Definitely a quicker pace. That's a quicker pace than I was expecting, to be honest.
Yeah, the 1v1s are a lot easier. I think there are choppier waters ahead in terms of some tricky matchups, but we'll cross those bridges when we come to them, you know?
Yeah.
For now, I think you should do the outro.
You really want to go to the loo, don't you?
I really do, yes.
You can find the show notes for this episode at spinnerproof.com/episodes/75, I think. And there you can find links to all the stuff we've been talking about today. You can also find, if you're so inclined, a link to our Twitter, which is at Spinnerproof. And there you can tweet to us the time that you were most desperate for the toilet. I'm currently eyeing up Gart ML brushless motors.
Is there something specific about GAR ML brushless motors that you're eyeing up? Or did you just feel like dropping a brand name in the hope you might get sent a sample?
Well, maybe we'll get sent a sample. No, I'm not expecting this to go into the edit. I was just telling you. Okay, I'm looking at brushless motors. I'm eyeing them up. I'm currently looking at 2 here. They're the same size. One is a 330 kV motor for, well, the price on eBay is £27.69, but it's £10 shipping. So that's like 38 quid. Or there's a 400 kV motor that is, as far as I can tell, otherwise identical for £27.92 with free shipping. So about 30, it's like 10 quid difference.
How does this compare to the kind of things we were seeing when we perused Hobby King?
I haven't been looking. Did I look on Hobby King? I need to shop around.
I sent you loads of links for Hobby King stuff. Because my way of judging the quality of a motor is essentially the price. Because I don't know enough about what I'm talking about with them otherwise.
Well, the thing is, I don't want to go spending hundreds of pounds on a brushless motor.
Oh, I don't think I looked at anything over 30.
So like I'm happy spending like 30 odd quid on a brushless motor. I think that seems reasonable, and I think we want, for anything that we're going to do, we want a low kV motor, right? Like these motors I've been looking at fulfill the requirements that we've been like they're large diameter, low kV motors that can take an enormous amount more current than we're ever going to put through them.
The only reservation I would have about the ones you were looking at is they look quite heavy.
Yeah, they are heavy, but they're big motors. Can you get big motors that aren't as heavy?
I think you can get less big motors that are similarly low kV, or specifically motors that are the same but flatter.
So I've only looked in depth at this particular brand. There's no reason for this. The fact that I've fixed on this brand, other than it came up a bunch with the kind of kV that we were looking at. So you can step up to sort of like ones that are like shorter, but they're like much bigger. So like the ones that are like more proportioned to what I was originally thinking of are lower kV, which is great, but they are 64 mil outer diameter. They're like the size of the wheels. I think, I could be wrong, but I think the kV rating is proportional to the diameter of the motor.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Because I haven't seen any small low kV. Like all the small ones are quite high kV. I've sort of come to the conclusion in my head, not based on anything particular, but in conclusion in my head that it's based on the number of those poles that you can fit in there. You know, they've got like the windings that will go around in a number of poles. I sort of figure if you've only got 4 poles, you can't get a low kV rating out of that.
I imagine, and I kind of want this to go in so that people can tell me how wrong I am, I feel like that's a question of market demand. So a lot of very small brushless motors you're looking at are for the drone market, where they want a high kV. Whereas once you start getting into low kV, high torque applications, you're probably looking at just generally bigger stuff. If there were demand for a tiny low kV motor, I reckon it would probably exist.
Is my 30 to 40 quid that I'm willing to spend not enough?
Well, I know that other people for this kind of thing have spent a lot more than that.
Yeah, but
I wouldn't.
Where? Because I was gonna. So let me find a link to the website that I was looking at that had like a list. That had a list of all these GART ones just sort of there. Let me see if I can find it again. Right. So on the website I'm looking at, I get a stator diameter, which is slightly less than the actual diameter of the motor because it's the bit that doesn't spin. And by the time and I've also got a listing of all the kV ratings. Right. So you've got like a 1400 kV one, which is an 18 mil stator. And then you sort of looking down the kV rating, you think, right, we will probably want something quite low. So the first time you get below 500, we're at 35 mil on the stator. And that's 415 kV. And we were sort of thinking 300-ish is probably, or lower, would be ideal, right? And so again, I'm looking down, and when we get down to like the 300 range, so 320, we're at 41 on the stator, 41 mil on the stator. Oh, there's a 380 kV one for 41 mil diameter. So they're sort of all quite big still. And then you get down to like the 100 kV thing, and you're looking at 83 mil.
It might well be that I'm wrong and you can only get low kV motors in very high diameters because that is a limitation of the system.
Because I sort of feel like I can sort of see a relationship in my head between the number of those sort of poles that you can fit in there and the kV rating for the motor.
See, my understanding is that the diameter has the biggest effect on the torque, just because it's essentially a longer lever, which is an awful way of describing it, and not at all rigorous, but I hope makes some intuitive sense, or at least it does for me.
Let me sort of try, and I can probably prove or disprove my number of stator arms theory. So this is a 2300 kV motor, which has 12 arms and 14 poles. I'm not sure how that works. 12 arms.
But that would be 2 poles that there aren't a arm to hold. How does that even happen?
And then if I go look at the lowest kV one, which is 100 kV, it has 36 stator arms and 42 poles. Is that just because it's bigger? Or is that the relationship? I don't know. 12S. Whew.
That's plenty of S.
That's a lot of S.
That's more S than a man could ever need.
331 I've been looking at is 24 and 12. So yeah, it's like twice the number of arms in the big chunky one I was looking at as compared to the little one that's probably more appropriate for drive, which looks similar. What What brand of brushless motor was Mr. Mordew on about in his post recently?
You'd have to go and look at it. It was a good post.
Yeah. It was a good post. I enjoyed reading that. It made me feel like I could actually do brushless drive.
Although it looked more complicated than a lot of the other conversions I've seen, but that's mostly because he was changing the first stage over from nylon to metal gears.
Yeah, that seemed a bit like, ugh, to me. I also feel like I prefer in principle, prefer the Robert Cohen approach of soldering the pinion rather than ripping it out, but that's just me.
Yeah, going back to the main argument here, I'm not certain at all of the science behind it. I just feel like it might be... this relationship you're seeing between diameter and kV might just be because people generally want lower kV for higher torque applications, and the fact that diameter gives higher torque means that that's just what is given to the market. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Right, so this is
This is one of the most inexpert conversations I've had yet.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm going to put much of it, if anything. I might put this as the after show.
Yeah, do it. Again, I'd like opinions. Well, not opinions, probably just knowledge. Just straight up facts.
So anyway, I've been eyeing up these motors and thinking about stupid ways to power my robot that I'm not ready to talk about yet.
What if you used a servo?
A servo?
Brushless servo?
But a servo wouldn't be as funny. This is the thing. Like, I could build a serious version of what I'm thinking of, or I could make it ludicrous.
What if the servo was ludicrous?
Can you get a servo that can do 4,000 RPM?
I wonder if you can. Well, I'm sure you can. I wonder if it's practical to just put a different motor in a servo. Because I've been servo hacking lately, and it's surprisingly easy, although I'm fairly sure I did screw it up very slightly, in that for some reason, how can I phrase this in a way that isn't dumb? I can't. Basically, when you hack a servo for continuous rotation, a sort of zero neutral PWM signal should have it stopped. And I was finding that mine was stopped on 33%, which is a suspiciously precise number, and implies that I got something very wrong in the same way both times. It's even more suspicious when you consider the fact that the potentiometer has three wires running off of it. Which makes me think that maybe I did the right thing with two of them and the wrong thing with one both times. I don't remember what point I was trying to make here, but that was a fun story, I guess.
I can't help you. I've never opened up a servo.
You should. It's fun. I'm having ideas about how you could potentially speed hack them.
I don't think I have any servos.
I have so many servos.
I feel like you've done a much better job than me of having like useful parts. I've got lots of things that would get you like 80% of the way towards a robot.
I think you've been tending to buy at a Beetle scale, and I'm now buying at an ant scale.
Yeah, that's true.
I've bought even more at an ant scale. I've spent another 50 quid on parts this week. Because Bristol Bot Bills just had to get nice small receivers in, didn't they?
Oh, did you? Have they still got any of those? I should buy some of those.
They only had 10. I took 2 of them.
Only 2?
It would have been more. It would have been more.
Oh, I did get some of those corner things, by the way.
Corner things?
The nut strip corner things.
Oh, were they nut strip corners? I thought it was just more nut strip.
Well, I got a mixture of like the ones that just do the 2 sides, and I've got one that lets you do like the sort of full vertex thing.
Huh. Nice. You see, I would buy something like that, but it would require precision in my building, and that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like I've been ambitious buying those.
Yeah, but you're patient enough that if you accidentally scrapped a part by drilling in the wrong place, you would remake the part. I'm not that kind of guy.
Patient enough, maybe. I'm not sure if I probably have enough plastic now. I did get a bunch more.
I have 6 sheets of polycarb sat next to me. It's not like I'm short on material.